not only bandwidth, and also they are going in a big way for value-added services also. You name health, education, entertainment, governance, agriculture, you name anything, everything they are working in that direction. In a knowledge economy, it is going to play very prominent role. And at the same time, in Amaravati, they are going to have one of the best institutions of excellence. It will be innovation, incubation, startup with venture capital. In a knowledge economy, we wanted to produce more and more entrepreneurs. This ecosystem is going to help in a big way. Andhra, you are all aware, we are having a power of innovation. That is our capacity here. With Reliance global name and also fame, they are having that type of knowledge. With that knowledge, with their exposure and also their networking, I am confident Amaravati Center will be the best center, not only in India, globally, it should be one of the best center. And also you have to produce hundreds of entrepreneurs. Today, I am very happy, 20 years back, we laid a foundation for information technology. In America, around 0.8 million Andhra people are there. In Silicon Valley, in America, highest per capita income, not Americans or either any other country, but Andhra people are getting maximum per capita income. That is nearly $85,000 for a year. That is the biggest per capita income they are able to do it. $85,000? $85,000 they are getting. Now we wanted to make it double or triple. That is they are all basically professionals. Now they are all converting into entrepreneurs. This is the beginning. I really appreciate the team who are all here. When IT Minister went to Mumbai around 3 months back, October 23rd, at the time Mukesh ji and Prasad, they shared with him, and also he has given at that time his wish list. These are all the things we want, and at the same time we will extend all the cooperation. Recently, Mukesh ji has come to Amaravati. We had a wonderful discussion. He has seen my real-time governance. Within 3 days, 4 days time, he sent Kiran with his high-level team, and also Estonia, some advisors also, technical persons. They are fully involved now. His commitment towards e-governance is very, very interesting. He wants to transform. And also he wanted to help the governments through e-governance, how to give better services to the citizens of India. That is his intention, that is of interest. I am very happy for that. Ultimately, these two MOUs, I am having total confidence. One is hardware revolution, that ecosystem. Second is knowledge economy, how to make entrepreneurs in knowledge economy. It is going to happen in Andhra Pradesh. I really appreciate them. And also one more MOU they have done, oil and gas. That is around $6 billion US dollars. Totally, Reliance is going to invest in Andhra Pradesh around 50,000 crores. They are going to create 25,000 employment within a short time. So I really appreciate Mukesh ji and also Prasad and also Kiran and his team. With this, I am thanking everybody. Prasad will say, he will respond.
Thank you, the Honorable CM and the IT Minister and the officials of the Government of Andhra Pradesh. I'm really pleased to be here and have this opportunity. As CM Garu said that I'm a son of the soil, so in some way I think it also gives, it gives me an opportunity to return something to the place that I hail from. Every project that we have signed the MOU for, is going to be implemented in a time-bound fashion starting from the next 3 months to 3 years. We wish to complete most of these projects and investment, and also the projects related to the e-governance, supporting e-Pragati, as well as the other projects of the tech park, the entrepreneurship programs, as well as the manufacturing complex in Tirupati. And we are very serious that this should be done in a time-bound fashion. We have already agreed with the Honorable CM and the IT Minister how we are going to monitor these projects. And you will see pretty soon a kind of noticeable, measurable progress and as these projects come to fruition. So thank you for giving us the opportunity, and thank you, sir.
Again, they are going to come one more project, that is agriculture, how to procure agro-produce for their shopping malls, all these things. That is an interesting project. Not only for Andhra shops, they are going to procure all these things for the chain also, that they are going to come very soon. And at the same time, they are showing so much of interest on e-governance, e-Pragati, and also all services, how to make it more robust, and also the platform what we are creating, they wanted to work with us to make it one of the best platform. So that how to make it success, that is their concern. Very soon they are going to send nearly 20-25 technical experts. Am I sure? 20-25 technical experts, they are going to come and sit with us. They are going to work with us. They are very strong in technology. I am very strong in governance. How it is going to work, let us see, both of us. Thank you, Ananda.
Thank you very much, Our Honourable Chief Minister, and thank you to all the dignitaries. May I request Mr. Nara Lokesh, Honourable Minister for Information Technology, Panchayati Raj and Rural Development, Government of Andhra Pradesh, to please stay back on stage for our next plenary session. Starting with our next plenary session, ladies and gentlemen, titled Future Sectors, Can India Lead Industry 4.0? I'm going to take the pleasure of inviting Rakia Ibrahim, Secretary of State, Ministry of Industry, Investment, Trade and Digital of Economy, Morocco. Marwan Shakarchi, Chairman, MKS PAM Group, Switzerland. Mahesh Prabhu, Vice President and Global Head of Innovation, ITC Infotech India Limited. Ian McCarthy, Director, International Business Festival, Liverpool, United Kingdom. Mr. Akhil Bansal, Deputy CEO, KPMG India. Ayuna Badmeva, Deputy CEO and General Manager, International Business Digital Television, VGTRK and Rostelecom Company, Russia. And Pranjal Sharma, author, Kranti Nation, India and the Fourth Industrial Revolution. I'd now like to hand over the mic to Pranjal Sharma, requesting him to take this plenary session forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be discussing this absolutely fascinating issue of the fourth industrial revolution. It's a very interesting and intriguing term, but really it is about all the new technologies that are taking over our lives at an individual level and at an institutional level as well. From artificial intelligence to Internet of Things to data science, neuroscience, robotics, and of course 3D printing. A lot of us don't realize that these technologies may look very futuristic, but they are already present in India. Artificial intelligence is already ruling our lives, from our emails to our digital and social media to the choices that we make. Companies in India have started using Internet of Things, where the entire value chain is running on Internet-based connectivity. At the same time, we have a situation where companies and young startups are using artificial intelligence for healthcare as well as education. We will be discussing some elements of that in this session, and the Chief Minister has been leading this globally as well as in India. So let me begin by inviting the Honorable Minister from Morocco to make a small statement about how she sees the importance of Fourth Industrial Revolution, not just for India, but also for your country, ma'am, and also for Africa.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Dear Excellency IT Minister, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really honored to be on the stage for the second time to contribute on this fourth panel, which deals with the theme that concerns all of us and which is beginning to become more and more important in view of the enormous challenges it presents. There is no doubt that the Republic of India is today one of the most dynamic economies in the world, with the growth rate that exceeds 7% in 2017. The Indian government was committed since 1990s in series of economic reforms that include liberalization of foreign investment, modernization of the financial sector, and the adjustments of its monetary and fiscal policies. These reforms process had beneficial effects on the Indian economy, including higher growth rates, lower inflation, and increased foreign investment. In recent years, the government of India has continued its reform program, which aimed to promote investment and industrial development, with its Make in India initiative recently launched in 2014. India wants to be the next global manufacturing center and aims to become one of the most or the major actors in the 4.0 industrial revolution at the regional and international levels. I take this opportunity to hail the commendable efforts of the Republic of India to achieve the economic and social development of Africa. Morocco, which has always adopted the policy of active solidarity in favor of African countries, values the African policy of the Republic of India and expresses its full support for the various programs set up by the Indian government in the objective of promoting the economic and social development of the African continent. It's worth saying that even the 4.0 industry is not that much developed in Africa. The continent is full of substantial opportunities in terms of trade and investment that will allow it in the coming years to be in the front of the international stage. Indeed, for more than one reason, the continent can seize the opportunities offered by the fourth industrial revolution and use them as levers to accelerate its development. In this context, Morocco, which has adopted various sectoral strategies for its economic development, is currently one of the pioneers in the automobile, agriculture, and touristic sectors at regional level. In this regard, Morocco could play as a hub in the continent by joining efforts with other advanced countries, including India, through a triangular cooperation for the benefit of Africa, and make the 4.0 a strategic choice by using IT's interest in the industry to overcome its difficulties. Actually, there are several reasons for choosing Morocco as a key link between Africa and the rest of the world. Morocco is also, above all, a politically stable country where constant dynamic of openness and democratization has been initiated. Similarly, the reforms program undertaken by the Kingdom allowed the liberalization of the Moroccan economy and in its integration into the world economy, particularly through the establishment of a macroeconomic framework and a business environment encouraging local and foreign investments. Moreover, several sectors of economy subject of the new Moroccan strategies are largely open to foreign capital through an attractive investment device. With these reforms, Morocco today generates support and assistance to all local and foreign investors. Furthermore, the government of Morocco has undertaken major strategies for the development of several key sectors of its economy. These include, namely, the 2014-2020 industrial acceleration, which is planned to attract foreign companies to invest in the Kingdom of Morocco and to create additional employment through the setting up of integrated ecosystem. The Green Morocco Plan, which is the modernization of the agricultural sector, the Halietus Plan, which is the fisheries development, creation of 75,000 jobs, the logistics plans, which is plan to improve logistics competitiveness of the country and the establishment of integrated national network. The Azure Plan is in tourism sector. The Solar Plan is within the framework of Morocco's energy strategy, which allows to reduce the energy dependence of the kingdom and to protect the environment by limiting greenhouse gas emissions. Meanwhile, Morocco has established an excellent and solid infrastructure to facilitate the act of investing in different regions of the country. These include industrial zones and parks built according to international standards, free zones, modern port platforms, including the port of Tangier Med, 15 international airports, and so on. And of course, linking all regions of Morocco with airports and also 32 connections into Africa. As far as the factor of production are concerned, our country offers competitiveness costs, either in terms of average monthly wage or concerning the costs associated with all procedures required for the export of goods. Similarly, the Moroccan tax system provides the most moderate tax rate in the region. Besides this advantage, Morocco offers preferential access to the markets of 54 countries, more than 1.5 billion consumers, under preferential and free trade agreements signed with these partners. Thanks to all these efforts to modernize and improve the business environment, Morocco has become a platform of choice in terms of investment, production and exports, and offers today many investment opportunities that concern not only the traditional sectors, mining, fishing, textile, agro-industry and tourism, but also advanced sector with high development potential. I take this opportunity also of my presence here with such delegation to appeal to our respective public and business communities and to invite them to establish and strengthen all kinds of sustainable partnership leading to concrete results for economic and development of our respective countries. I think we could be optimistic about the future of our economic relationship because of all ingredients are there. It is enough to seize them to reinforce our cooperation and our partnership for better economic integration based on a win-win approach. It is therefore up to us together to work with a collective approach to facilitate trade between our countries, to remove barriers to trade and develop partnership between private sectors so that they can contribute the co-development process we aspire. I cannot conclude my speech without sincerely expecting this event to be successful and fruitful business meeting, and without highlighting the exciting synergies between the advanced and the emerging economies, and to promote multidimensional cooperation between all participant countries. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. I think what you laid out is very important for all of us, because technology is also a force that is bringing countries and businesses together. In some ways, the democratic approach of the new technologies the new technologies are also far more democratic. The access for everybody is far better than it ever was. If you remember, in the 70s and 80s, we talked about technology transfer between developed countries and developing countries. Today, we are on the same arc of development. It's how we use them, which is important. Now, let's proceed with our discussion. I'm going to begin from the far end and begin by requesting Mr. Prabhu to share some thoughts. Mr. Prabhu, you lead a technology company, and while technology as a sector is important, the fact is that technology is in every other sector as well. In a brief few minutes, if you can tell us how you see it evolving in India.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be part of this distinguished panel. Thank you for having me. If you look at the history of industrial revolution, if you look at industry, what we call industry 1.0, it was all about mechanical systems, water power, and steam power, and so on. Then industry 2.0 was all about electricity and then assembly lines. Industry 3.0 about computers and automation. And now we are talking about cyber physical systems. And India, I believe, is somewhere in between 2 and 3. So I would say India is somewhere in 2.5 and still a long way to go past the 3. Having said that, I think we have the potential to do that, to get to Industry 4.0 and also be a true leader in Industry 4.0. What we really have to do is follow and embrace what I call the ABC of digital transformation as it applies to Industry 4.0. And these ABCs are as follows. The first A is artificial intelligence. So predictive analytics, machine learning, image analytics, video analytics, and so on and so forth. Anything that will help the machines to be intelligent and take their own decisions. So that's number one. Second A is augmented reality and virtual reality. So everybody has a smartphone today, and it's a lot of computing power in your hands. What we have with the smartphones and in future with the smart glasses is the ability to see overlaid information which the machines themselves can emit and give out. So we are already talking about digital twins. So you have a digital or a virtual representation of the physical thing which gives out information about itself without you having to ask. And the B, coming to the first B, bots and automation. So we have already seen one level of automation which is mostly physical, mechanical, whatever you call it. But there is another level of automation, not just in software, but also in cyber physical systems where you can a good example is a drone, which can go to places where it is very dangerous or unpleasant for a human being to go and collect a lot of information and do analytics and intelligent stuff. The second B is blockchain, and when we talk about blockchain, most people think it is nothing to do with manufacturing, right? It's all about cryptocurrencies and distributed ledgers. But when we are looking into the future and we are talking about machine-to-machine communication, especially when you have, let's say, a machine from company A talking directly to machine from company B, right? And you need to have systems which everybody can trust. So nobody should be able to own it or manipulate it, but everybody should be able to trust it. And blockchain plays a very important role there. Coming to the first C, conversational systems. I'm sure there will be a day where you walk into the factory and ask the machine, "Hey, machine number 3, what's up? How are you doing today?" And the machine responds back saying, "Hey, I'm doing okay. My utilization is 73%, and there may be a small problem in the conveyor belt here, but I think I can go on for another 6 months." So it is giving a lot of information about it's talking to you and it's giving information about itself to you. And coming to the second C, it is about connected devices and applications. Now this is the foundation stone of all connected, of all industrial systems going forward. So we talk about IoT, we talk about sensors, you talk about devices. In devices you have a lot of smart sensors and smart devices nowadays, but you also have the old devices where you can bring in some smartness by adding some connectors. And then you have the gateways, the communication protocols, the cloud, the big data analytics, the whole end-to-end spectrum, which makes it very interesting. And we have to embrace technology. What we have seen is in India, everybody wants to be the first. We've seen this. I want to do something very different in Industry 4.0. Can I be the first adopter? And once we go and say, okay, here's the thing that we can do, we also get questions saying that, show me 4 references of where you have done this before. Right? So I think this is something that we'll have to change. That's number one. Number 2, I think also a fear of failure. Failure is not accepted well in India. Maybe we should have a fail-fast approach. Do lots of prototype. Nothing wrong in failing. So but you, as long as you learn from your earlier failures and adapt and become more efficient. I just want to end by saying that I see a lot of potential in India, and a couple of reasons for that. One is there are a lot of good IT engineers that we have seen, and if you go to a young graduate in Andhra Pradesh and ask him which languages probably the first one he'll say is Telugu, second one is English, and third will be Java or .NET, right? So we have good engineers. So we can leverage their engineering capabilities, and also we have seen a lot of mechanical, electrical, and ENC engineers who have who are working for IT companies. So this is a good mix of cross-functional skills that is needed to lead Industry 4.0.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. That's a great point. I think the fear of failure is absolutely the biggest challenge. I think the phrase now is we should fail quickly and fail fast and then move on to the next level so that you learn from that. Thank you so much. Mr. Shakarchi, if I can come to you and request you to share your thoughts, especially with regard to your company and sector. How do you see technology defining what you do?
Okay, thank you. People will be wondering what somebody who has a gold refinery is doing in a technology session. But I think technology is in every part of the business we do. And I will compare. We have a gold refinery in Switzerland pump and one in India called MMTC pump. And I'll two-story anecdotally to show where technology plays a big part. So one of my worries when coming into India, when we do gold, you cannot it cannot be 99.99%. It has to be 100% correct of the title or the weight, etc. It was a big worry, and I thought the Indian labor force wasn't up to standard to that. I was extremely pleasantly surprised. Not only did they come and take what we do in Switzerland as processes, but actually, or the machines, all of the machines that we had to do to start we had imported them either from Germany or Italy. But luckily, the Indian labor force reinvented itself. It readapted the processes. Some machines have been built locally, and all this is linked by IT. And we take these same processes, and now we're exporting our know-how to Switzerland. So, that's one anecdotally. Secondly, we live in a world where the consumer wants to know exactly the provenance of each product he buys. I say jokingly, but soon we'll know the yogurt that comes in, which cow it has been came out with. And it's in the precious metal industry, it's really prevalent, in India and in Europe much more. So, as Mahesh mentioned, blockchain technology is a big thing here. So it's the technology that permits us to trace from A to Z. Also the consumer, the way he's buying gold. We have my generation, the older generation is used to going to the local jeweler or to the local bank to go and buy their gold. But again, in India, we partnered with Paytm and Motila Oswal, where you can buy gold digitally. It's backed by a physical piece in our factory, but it's all done this through technology. It's a process which has been developed in India, and other than these two companies we're working with, there are about 4, 5, 6 companies that would like to do the same in India. It has been proved a great success. In less than a year, we have 2 million customers, and it's keep on every day we're pleasantly surprised. So these are the processes where I will say we're replicating from India to the rest of the world, and that's where we can learn from India. I will conclude as saying, it's no more made in India, but created in India that counts.
Thank you. That's a very good and positive thought, Mr. Shakarchi. I do believe that whatever works in India, it has a model across the world, because the scale at which we operate, when we have to bring services, either consumer services or government services, to hundreds of millions of people, if it can be scaled up in India, it will work everywhere else. Thanks for your thoughts. Ms. Badmayeva, if I can come to you. You represent the media sector, which is also where I come from originally. Media has seen the maximum change in adopting and the consumption of media in a completely new format. In your experience, from Russia, as well as the connection that you have with India, how do you see technology informing a media sector?
Okay, thank you very much, first of all, for inviting us here for this panel discussion, and I'm really very much impressed with the scale of this forum. I would like to say that for Russia, India is a very special country. Last year, we all celebrated the 70th anniversary of establishment of bilateral relations, and we have special content, we have special months of India on our terrestrial and paid TV channels in Russia, as well as we shared our content with our partner here, Prasar Bharatsi. We also have a very interesting discussion with Mr. Pankaj Saran, who is ambassador of India to Russia. And what we understood is that Russia is the largest source of tourists to India. We are the third largest country after US and UK. And if we will dig deeper into these numbers, we will understand that from US and UK there are many Indians who come to visit their families, and from Russia people are really very much interested to learn more about Indian history, culture, and also business. And as Digital Television Russia, we're a commercial arm of Russia Television and Radio, and we feel that this is our goal, and this is our mission to provide information that Russian citizens need about India, but also to support and to be an informational infrastructure for Russian businesses here in India. We signed an agreement, an MOU with Indian public broadcaster Prasar Bharatsi on a news exchange, and this program works very well. What I would like to talk about is results of globalization. They show that emerging nations, emerging manufacturers, we know how to produce. But when we think about the fair share of the results of globalization, in order to be strong, all emerging nations, all emerging countries, they need to promote their brands. So it's more about the product design, it's more about activations all around the world and building really global brands. India has many iconic brands, very well known around the globe. But if we will look into the medium and small businesses, the situation will be different. The situation is really The same for Russian companies, it's the same for Indian or Chinese companies. You need a lot of working capital, you need a lot of budgets to promote these brands internationally. And we see, and what we negotiate and discuss with public and national broadcasters from emerging countries is that we really need to intensify our efforts to build a network of resources which will tell our citizens about the brands from emerging nations. This is something that may help us to flourish, and this is absolutely essential for Indian companies and for India to lead in the fourth industrial revolution by having really strong medium and small businesses and medium and small global brands.
Thank you so much. And I think you made an important point about connecting with citizens. And this is a medium where leadership and citizens can have a dialogue directly. And I think that brings in so much more transparency in any democratic setup.
Exactly. And back to your question about digital, it was really very interesting research in January 2018 in Harvard Business Review, which showed that the life cycle for the products is becoming smaller. And one of the problems is that in order to promote their brands, all budgets go to digital. But at the same time, it means that people speak only with a small amount of markets, and majorities of the people and consumers are covered by traditional televisions. As sometimes we joke in the industry that, television is dying, but Google plays its advertising on television. So let's discuss, let's try and set up projects in the interests of emerging markets brands.
Thank you so much. May I invite Ian McCarthy to take the mic? Ian McCarthy is from the city of Liverpool, and apart from the football club, you may remember it is a city which gave Beatles to the world. So I don't know whether you want to talk about Beatles or you want to talk about Fourth Industrial Revolution, but please go ahead.
We can talk about the Beatles if you like, because it's 50 years since the Beatles came to northern India, so that we'll be celebrating that back in the home of the Beatles in Liverpool. I represent an international business festival which is happening this June, which has one full day which is focused on the manufacturing challenge which faces all developing and developed economies. But if we are just sitting here reflecting on the theme of the conference, which is charting India's new global integration strategy, it feels to me like the integration between the UK and India is a marriage which is made in heaven. The marriage in particular on three levels. Firstly, the Make in India campaign, which has been so successful and has so much political and business power behind it, and the UK's emerging new industrial strategy. I think beneath that, if you look at the marriage between the UK's advanced manufacturing sector and the scale and ambition which the Indian economy has, then bringing those two together can be very, very powerful. And then just reflecting on how you make that happen on a practical level, I think we need to reinforce the knowledge transfer networks between economies. I think we need to continue to develop jointly funded research, and there are some great opportunities within Liverpool at facilities such as Sensor City, the manufacturing innovation facility, funded by higher education, the private sector and government. And then finally giving businesses the opportunity to showcase and demonstrate their goods and services in front of the relevant business, academic and research bodies.
Thank you. And I think now it's well recognized that India is one of the biggest investors in United Kingdom, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest in Liverpool as well. I'd like to now invite Mr. Akhil Bansal to share his thoughts as Deputy CEO of KPMG in India. You also have a perspective across sectors, across industries, across companies. in terms of the eagerness, excitement, and perhaps anxiety about the use and adoption of technology in India. How do you see it?
Thank you, Pranjal. When we look at Industrial 4.0 and India, can India lead it? What's happening across the sectors? Without being an arrogant Indian, an optimistic Indian, I would say India has no option but to lead the Industrial 4.0. And I'm not saying it because of optimism, I'm saying it because of their logical reasons behind it. If you look at it, if I would say that the journey is actually already begun, and there are a number of examples one can quote as to how India has taken that leapfrog and moved on to the most automated way of doing things, including digital and including data analytics into it. Kirloskar brother is a good example which you often quote. How quickly they have moved on to the 3D printing. The journey is already begun in some sense. Not everyone would be aware of what actually is happening in the various sectors in the country, but there are a number of good things which have happened. But the logics which I give why it is bound to happen is one, that India has ingredients which are very critical to Industry 4.0. Two of them, one is our strength in technology, right? Over these last 2-3 decades, how we have come up on the technology side is an important part will be played by technology in the Industrial 4.0. Second is our demographics. Now, if we look at it, however good or bad we feel about it, the generation change is making a big difference when it comes to digital and technology. I probably take 20 hours to learn something. The next generation kid can do that in 5 minutes. And that demographic advantage India has will help India move faster on the technology and adoption of technology. The other point which I would make why I believe India will have no option but to do it is if you look at the three things required for industrial revolution is hardware, software and analytics. Mixture of these three is, I can define it as industrial revolution, this fourth revolution. We are already good at software, we are already good at analytics. The hardware is something we need to catch up with. But good part in the fourth revolution is that it is very, very global. So even if you are not able to develop that hardware in India, the system integrators in India will make sure that you get best of the hardware from across the world and you are able to do it. The third point I would make is that India requires it. If you look at the point India stands today, we have a huge young population and we will continue to be the youngest country in the world for next 10, 50, 20, 25 years. If we have to get everything distributed, whether it's healthcare, education, products, services, entertainment, across the country, you are talking about 20% of the world living in India. If you have to distribute it without adoption of technology, India will not be able to do it. So while we have many strength, on the other side, India does require it to happen. I just read an article written by Mr. Amitabh Kant where he said on ease of doing business, there are two critical factors where we are weak. One is contract enforcement and one is property registration and ownership. And both of them can be solved by blockchain. And if India adopts that technology, India can quickly move from a position of weakness to position of strength. And interestingly, Andhra is one government which has adopted blockchain technology, so to say. The issue that will come across, because it is two big changes between the three industrial revolutions and this fourth one. One, that the speed at which change is happening, it's exponential. It's not a linear growth, it's exponential. And with a multiple choice, you have to choose what you want to, which technology you want to pick up. It is not in the first three revolution. If you want wanted to automate, you know what needed to be done, what particular machine needed to be installed, and you are automated. Here you have to make a choice, and which is changing at an exponential thing. Second biggest change between the previous one and this one is globalization. While if Germany developed some technology 100 years back, it remained in Germany. Today you develop anything in Papua New Guinea or Burkina Faso, in 72 hours is available in India. And therefore that's a big change. What will really a big challenge in India besides access to capital, besides the policies and the law enforcement, the one big thing that will really make the difference in India winning or losing is reskilling. You know, the number of people who are coming into job, if you are not able to reskill them, then there would be an issue. If India is able to take care of that, I think we will lead it.
Thank you. I think that's an important point because there are several negative aspects of these technologies when we have to be ready and prepared to manage the negative aspects while building on the positive aspects. Thank you, all of you. I'd like to now invite Minister Nara Lokesh Garu for his special address. I really find it fascinating, your portfolio of information technology, Panchayati Raj and rural development, because I think it combines three very important pillars on how to ensure that, and I think the government has done a fantastic creating a model of how technology can bring services, essential services and transparency to every part of the state, which is a model I think not just for India but other parts of the world. May I invite you to make an address.
To all the dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, good evening. As just introduced, I have a rare distinction of being both the Panchayati Raj, Rural Development and IT Minister. I think this sort of gives you an idea of how Andhra Pradesh is looking at IT for the masses, and that's very, very unique to us. If you look at a theme that is running across the world, it is happiness. UAE has a minister that monitors the happiness of their citizens. In Andhra Pradesh, the only other portfolio that the Chief Minister has apart from happiness is investments and infrastructure. So this kind of gives you an idea of how happiness is becoming more a measurable point for governments as we go forward. In Andhra Pradesh, we have a vision. By 2029, we want to be the #1 state in India, in not only in per capita income, but also in happiness. So if we have to be #1 in happiness, we need to reimagine the way governments are going to work. Governments no longer can be reactive. We have to be proactive. And that is the essence that today in Andhra Pradesh we are now imagining. If you just look at it, we have close to 1 million IoT devices in the field. 1 million IoT devices. From monitoring quality of drinking water, from ensuring that the works are getting on time and monitoring the pace at which the works are going on via drone, physiometers to know groundwater quality. We have numerous sensors now which actually feed into what we call the real-time governance center. A world-class center. For all of you who have attended the keynote address by the Honorable Chief Minister, you've seen pictures of that center. But the power behind it is the data that's now feeding in. And I'll give you a few data points that sort of gives you an idea of how Industry 4.0 is actually changing the way we govern ourselves. Last year we've had close to 24% deficit in rainfall. 24% deficit in rainfall. But agriculture still grew by 14%. This year, as we speak, we have 14% deficit in rainfall, but agriculture sector is growing at 24%. So it's all about using our natural resources better. And in the case of water for irrigation, we've used sensors through our entire irrigation channel. We have used physiometers to know exactly where and how much water needs to be sent. And I think that is something which is very, very unique to the state of Andhra Pradesh. In my own department in Panchayat Raj and Rural Development, I have close to 80,000 kilometers of rural roads. 80,000. And the biggest challenge I struggle with is, how do I know the quality of these roads? So when I took charge as minister, it's been 10 months, I gave a challenge to a few Bangalore companies to actually fly drones on these roads and give me the percentage of potholes and exactly geotag these potholes on a map. And you won't believe it. 10 months later, we've actually been able to crack this. Nowhere in the world this is done, but it's been done out of India. And I think that's where Industry 4.0 is really revolutionizing us. Not only governments, even manufacturing is seeing tremendous amount of change. I've had a chance to meet a few people from Nike, and they're telling us that they're now talking about moving their factories closer to their markets. And that's becoming truly transformation. If you look at the amount of customization that you can now do in shoes, it's unbelievable. Truly transformative. And all this is possible because of 3D printing. I'm a Stanford MBA, and it's been 10 years since I've graduated. In 2008, we never heard the word blockchain. We never spoke about that. Big data was just starting. It was all the revolution about social networking. The in thing was social networking. But 10 years later, when I go back, it's amazing how new technology is truly transforming even the manufacturing sector. I strongly believe that India has led the 3.0 revolution. I think we skipped the 1 and the 2 and we've gone straight to 3. And sort of now looking back at 2 and saying, can we now get manufacturing? I think that is where India can play a very, very important in Industry 4.0. As you know, all the panelists have just spoken about it, we are very, very strong in software. But then if we can get the hardware and the analytics part together, I think we can truly show the way for the country. I've had a chance to meet a few friends in Tech Mahindra, and they're actually working with Nespresso, and Nespresso is a very, very good coffee brand globally. And they now have physiometers for the plants, and they actually have an app where the supervisor actually takes pictures of the leaves, and real time they're able to figure out the quality of the plantation. We are now able to adopt the same technology in Andhra Pradesh. We are now empowering farmers where they can just download a simple app, a free app. They can take pictures of the leaves and they'll know the nutritional deficiency of these plants. This is truly transformative, because in India, if you look at it, the kind of pesticides and fertilizers we use is very, very high. And the kind of investments that the farmers are having to do is enormous. So by a simple app and with artificial intelligence and image processing and recognition, we are truly able to now transform the way agriculture is going forward. In this background, I strongly believe that India now needs to skill up. I strongly believe that Java is just now a cup of coffee. It's no longer a programming language. Things are changing radical. As our friends have said, we're talking about artificial intelligence, blockchain, we're talking about numerous new technologies like 3D printing. It's totally transformative. As governments, the way we look at it is we have to be a catalyst. We have to be an enabler in this entire environment. And in Andhra Pradesh, we are focusing more and more on skill up. We are the first state in India to actually create an institute for digital technologies, which is exactly focused on next generation. We are the first state to actually have a cyber warfare center where students can actually hack into each other's system and we can create an environment where they can learn and collaborate together. And this is where I believe governments can play a very, very important role. The second and most important area that I see Andhra Pradesh can play an important role is become a platform. Today Andhra Pradesh has tremendous amount of data points. No other state government has it. And we as state are very, very open to new ideas. I've given a few examples like in agriculture, road quality, drinking water sensors. There's amazing opportunities that Andhra Pradesh today offers. And we see as a state that we are a platform for innovators, entrepreneurs, not only in India but from across the globe to come and engage with the state government. I see that this is going to play a very, very important role. You know, as few of our panelists said, the fear of failure is what keeps us away from innovation. I think what is important is government should become that platform. Government should actually fund such ideas and such companies to enable them to take their wacky, crazy ideas and innovate. In Andhra Pradesh, we have actually earmarked 100 crores. 100 crores that we co-invest with venture capitalists to actually invest in such companies. In companies that can truly transform the lives at the bottom of the pyramid. I also believe that electronic manufacturing is very, very critical. We have the software nailed, we have the analytics nailed, and we now need to get manufacturing. Under the program of Government of India, which is Make in India, we've sort of picked it and we said Made in Andhra Pradesh. So we have given great push into electronic manufacturing. In 2014, when we were a new state, our contribution to mobile phone manufacturing was zero. Absolutely zero. In 3 years flat, our contribution today is 20%. And we've just signed an MOU with Reliance Jio, where 80% of their requirement is actually going to be manufactured in the state of Andhra Pradesh. And this is not just about mobile phones anymore. This is not about set-top boxes. It's about creating the next generation IoT devices. And in Andhra Pradesh, the way we look at it is from design, manufacturing, up to delivery. DMD. This is where we see that we can play a very, very important role. We are working extremely hard to create a conducive environment. And I'm absolutely confident that India can actually lead. Not only lead, but actually show the way for the world on how to adopt Industry 4.0. And I'm pretty certain that under the leadership of our Honorable Chief Minister, we will show the way for India. And to all the delegates here, I look forward to working with all of you. I think there's some really, really innovative stuff that we can do. Please do use Andhra Pradesh as a test bed, sandbox, guinea pig, whatever you would call it. We love ideas. In the earlier panel session, I heard the Chief Minister say that, to all the innovators, come enter an MOU with Andhra Pradesh, test our speed, let us do proof of concepts and scale up. So once again, I'd like to thank all of you for being here. Do take time out. I know it's a busy schedule, but Visakhapatnam is a beautiful city. Do take time out to actually enjoy the beaches. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much. I think your actions speak louder than your words, even though your words are full of power. As you know, that my book, it's called Kranti Nation. It was presented at Davos. And I call it Kranti Nation because Kranti, the word means revolution in Sanskrit. And I've created an acronym for it. It's Knowledge, Research and New Technology India, which is Kranti. And I think I can say very, very confidently that Andhra Pradesh, under Honorable Chief Minister and you, is leading Kranti Nation in India. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And thank you all of you for being in this session. We have to end this and the next session will begin. But please join me in thanking the panelists and the Minister for sharing their views.
Thank you very much to all our panelists, and thank you, Pranjal, for being such a amazing moderator. It was an extremely well moderated session, some amazing point of views, an extremely enriching session as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. We start the next session almost immediately. Please allow us a few moments to set the stage for our next session. A quick photo up with all our panelists of our previous session. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the day 2 of the CIR Partnership Summit 2018, and we just got done with an enriching session on future sectors. Can India lead Industry 4.0? Once again, expressing our gratitude to all our panelists for coming all the way and sharing their knowledge and expertise with all of us. We deeply appreciate the same. Our next session is titled The Matrix of Skills Leveraging India's Workforce. The National Skill Development Mission was set up by the government to fulfill the growing need in India for skilled manpower across sectors and narrowing the existing gap between the demand and supply of skills. The pursuit of world-class skilled workforce developed through programs on mission mode is the government's priority now. This will address the challenges of imparting the skills required by a growing economy through innovating training modules and introduction of vocational curriculum. This session will focus on sector skills councils' progress across sectors of infrastructure and innovative strategies to bridge the skill gaps to address global goals of decent work and economic growth. Requesting all our guests to please remain seated. In just about a few moments, we will take the pleasure of inviting our panelists on stage. Please keep the aisle clear, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Minister for Skill Development, Government of Andhra Pradesh. In the same line of thought, I'd also like to invite Mr. S.S. Rawat, Principal Secretary, Department of Skills Development, Entrepreneurship and Innovation, Government of Andhra Pradesh. Also inviting Mr. Sean Freeman, Chief Operating Officer, NSL Consolidated India, Srini Srinivasan, Member, CII, National Committee on Pharma and Managing Director, Hospira Healthcare, Pfizer, Meena Raghunathan, Member, Advisory Committee, Andhra Pradesh Skills Development Corporation and Managing Director, GMR Varalakshmi Foundation, Vish Govindasamy, I beg your pardon, Leader of the Delegation, Deputy Vice Chairman, Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, President, Indo-Lanka Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and Group Managing Director, Sunshine Holdings PLC, Sri Lanka. Also inviting Sandeep Sen, Chairman, CII, National Committee on Special Abilities and Global CEO, Aegis Customer Support Services Private Limited, Ramesh Kaimal, Chairman, CII National Committee on Wind and Bioenergy and Chairman and Managing Director, Siemens Gamesa Renewable Power Private Limited. May we also take the pleasure of inviting Mr. Sambasiva Rao, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, AP State Skill Development Corporation. I'd now like to hand over the stage to Mr. Ramesh Kaimal, requesting him to take the session forward.
Thank you. Respected Minister, Mr. Ravindra, Mr. Rawat, Secretary, other distinguished panel members. The way we will do it is I'll make some opening remarks on skilling and the topic that we have now, and then request the panelists to speak for about 5 minutes, and then we'll ask some pointed questions to the different panelists and then have a discussion thereafter. So it's like this, India sits at the forefront of the new economic paradigm. Most analysts expect the Indian economy to grow at a sustained high rates during the coming decades and emerge as one of the largest economies of the world. According to Goldman Sachs, India is projected to become the largest economy in the world by the year 2050. One of the main reasons behind the positive wave of the Indian economic growth emerges from its demographic profile. The emerging demographic dynamics of the country ensures that it will have one of the youngest populations in the world, with the bulk of the population belonging to the working age category. By the year 2026, 64.8%, almost 65% of the Indian population is expected to be in the working age bracket. Now, this is a huge capital that we can make use of. The global workforce is expected to witness significant inclusion of Indians in the next couple of decades. A study by the Boston Consulting Group shows that while the world is expected to encounter a shortage of 47 million working people by 2020, India will in fact have a surplus of 56 million working people. So that's the kind of advantage that we have, provided we are able to skill them and make them prepared to take on that challenge. The value of India's demographic dividend will depend in great measure on whether the public and private sector have the political will and foresight not only to create jobs but also to train the new workforce, encourage global trade, address the challenges likely to be imposed by Industry 4.0, improve educational system, attract investment by industry to support innovation, and implement policies that engender confidence in the economy. One of the key stakeholders responsible for creating the said ecosystem is industry. Our current policy framework acknowledges the importance of creating a skilled talent pool and has designed a number of schemes and initiatives to further the cause and ensure greater industry participation. Formation of sector skill councils by the National Skill Development Corporation was a critical step in this regard. Over the years, SSCs have facilitated standardization of training and certification requirements across industries. As an independent entity, each SSC acts as an intermediary between industry and other stakeholders, such as students and training institutions. While SSCs are a sign of progress and have been facilitating industry-led training, it is also critical to delve into the aspirations of people in their working lives. It involves opportunities for work that is productive and delivers a fair income, security in the workplace, and social protection for families. Better prospects for personal development and equality of opportunities and treatment for all women and men on the same plane. All these aspects put together form the framework of decent work as being propagated by the International Labour Organization. CII is working towards the aspect not only by ensuring greater industry participation in the skill area and supporting various sector skill councils, but has also been contributing towards creation of an equitable labor ecosystem through its industrial relations initiatives. So, with this, what I will do is we will request each panel member to speak. I'll go back and I'll request the first panel member, Mr. Sean, to make his remarks, and then we will see from there.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, guests, and for having us here today. I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about a global perspective of skills. NSL is an Australian mining and mineral processing company. We're focused on processing what we would call ultra-low-grade iron ore in India. It is a resource which is not utilised by the industry at all. And we are bringing technology, capital, and new ways of doing business into very remote parts of Andhra Pradesh. We've been blessed that this is the third time we've been able to attend the summit here in Vizag. Over the next 2 years, we are investing 1,800 crores into the Kurnool district and employing directly 2,000 people. And then our 5-year plan sees us investing an additional 3,000 crores with another 3,000 employees directly employed into our steel and our value addition in our mineral processing. So the question is, as an Australian company, why is skills so important for us? It's important that you understand the context, and after being in India now for 9 years, I can say that Rayalaseema is my native place. However, it's a backwards community, it's a single crop agriculture, and we are struggling to actually source the correct skills that we need to run a safe and quality controlled and profitable business. And that challenge will become even more for us as we grow from 250 people that we have today to 2,000 people next year, and then 5,000 people within the next few years. If I could talk openly about skills, and we've been discussing as a team outside, I've got 3 key areas I wanted to discuss around skills development and the issues that we are facing as a foreign company investing into India. The first is around content. For us, we are struggling with the consistency of content, understanding in the recruitment process, does someone's piece of paper, their degree, their diploma, their qualification have any sort of standardisation? And the example I can give is that I have people with BSc degrees after 3 years of university that cannot use a laptop, cannot use a computer. So the standardisation in content is really critical for us. And the second part of that is that there is very little industry engagement in driving what that content is and the curriculum that goes with that. So that's the first point, is on content. The second issue for us in a remote area is on the availability of skills. Not only is the Betumchola and the Kurnool district a very remote part of India, our business model covers mining, mineral processing, pelletisation, steel, logistics, admin, HR. It's a very diverse business that we're operating. And to try and source those skills in a remote rural community is a real problem for our business moving forward. The example I can give is that something as simple as conveyor belt repair, which is integral to our business. I need to source people from almost 250 kilometres away to come and visit our mine sites and assist. The third issue, which is one of the longer-term sustainability issues for our business, is around what I'd like to call skills migration. So I mentioned it's a single crop farming community. We are aiming for 70% local employment. Unfortunately, every person I bring from a farm to work in our operations is someone who is not contributing to their village, to their community. So we all of a sudden don't have enough farming happening. So we end up with a skills gap in something which is equally important for our community where we work. So we are struggling as a company to understand how to do that, and I'll be happy to answer some questions on our strategy moving forward. It means as a company we have to invest in agricultural research, R&D, productivity improvement, things which are not core to our business but are very important to making sure we can run a sustainable operation for the next 50 years. The other part of skills migration is the unknown gaps or the new industries which will develop around our business as we grow. And in particular, thinking of things like healthcare, other education, the unknown skills that will be required as we start to develop industry in an area which is very remote. So they're really the three key issues for us, is on content, availability, and then the migration of skills away from traditional activities into our industry. We have a number of actions that we're putting into place, and we've signed an MOU with APSSDC last year, where NSL is developing a training college in the Kurnool district to bring Australian mining content into India. We'll have Australian trainers and auditors of those skills, and we'll have an Indian delivery system where we'll have Indian trainers actually delivering them for us in these remote areas. And the second part of that is, as I mentioned, around agricultural research, productivity improvements in farming, to make sure that we are backfilling the manpower requirements that we are taking into our industry, to make sure that these local communities are still able to farm productively. So we're very excited about the opportunities that India presents, but there are a lot of challenges for us that are non-core to our business, but we have to find our own solutions in these remote areas. So certainly happy to talk about that in some more detail.
Thank you, Sean. That was very interesting. We'll come back to those points again. May I request Mr. Sandeep to give his thoughts on skilling? You have been in the IT business, and let us all hear about that experience.
Thank you, Ramesh. I just want to understand whether I'm audible at the back. Okay. Taking off from where you sent, how do we reap the benefits of India's demographic dividend? All of us know some very key statistics. 66%, that's two-thirds of India's population is currently below the age of 35. So we are the youngest nation in the world. That's point one. If you come to the workforce population, and let's take the state of Andhra Pradesh, because that's where we are doing this summit. Currently, 54% of the population is in the age group of 20 to 59, which is categorized as the workforce population. In about 10 years, that figure will go up to 65%. Again, two-thirds of the population is workforce population. If you look at India as a whole, there are various statistics, but one measure says India needs to provide 10 to 13 million employment every year, almost 1 million people employed every month. If we can do the right skilling and the right employment, we can turn it into a demographic dividend. Otherwise, it could become a demographic disaster. Now let's come to training and skilling. And I will give a general approach and also on the IT BPO side. Obviously, what is absolutely important is for the current jobs and the jobs of the future, people should have the right skill. I just heard Sean say that he's got a graduate who can't operate a computer. So do we have that skill for the current jobs? And do we have skill sets for jobs of the future? And I'll come to that. That's the first important point. The other important point is what happens to the existing workforce? How do you retrain them? How do you reskill them? Will they be left behind? What do we do with the existing workforce? So these are the two paradigms. These are the two challenges. Now, what's happened with skilling? The government of India has the National Skill Development Corporation. Various state governments have their skill development corporation. And in fact, it would not be wrong to say that everybody and his grandmother has got into this whole skilling and training. But if that has so happened, why are we still facing a challenge? What is the challenge? And we've analyzed from the IT BPO industry, and we know there are 4 or 5 challenges. And the first, of course, is there is the whole accent on certification, on how many people we are training, but not enough on are we providing the right training, are we providing the right skill set. If there is a specialized BPO industry where the fellow needs to do analytics, even low-end analytics, he has to have some understanding of numbers, of maths. If he has no understanding and he has been skilled on a lot of other things, that is not useful. So the whole question is, are you providing the right skill sets? Part of that question is, do you have the right curriculum? Is it a theoretical curriculum which started 20 years back, which has no relevance now? I again refer to Sean, who was telling us before the program that he's looked at geologists who've done 6 years of geology but have never seen a mine. The same problem is there in other sectors. So, is that the right curriculum? Is the curriculum making sense? Is the curriculum only theoretical? And therefore, the problem is that while there are a lot of inputs, unless these inputs are calibrated, unless these inputs are designed with industry, and industry has to take the onus. I can tell you industry is not done enough. If they are calibrated with industry works on the curriculum, industry provides on-the-job training, then industry has the onus to pick up those people. Today the problem is there are many, many people being trained, but industry is not picking it up. In the IT BPO industry, a lot of people come to us, but we are not able to pick them up for the reasons that I said. And therefore that stress has not to be on certification, not to be on volume, but on employment. How many people have got jobs who have been trained? And a related issue, particularly on the IT BPO side, is are you training them for the skills of the future also? Because those are the skills that will be in great demand. If I give you a few examples, artificial intelligence, analytics, cloud computing, robotic process outsourcing, automation. So it is not enough to look at skills of the present. Are you looking at skills of the future? And with the government, NASSCOM, where I am an executive member, is working on some of those. But again, the basic issue is the right skill sets, the right curriculum. And then, of course, we come to these current employees, our existing employees. What do you do with them? How do you do with them? Well, the issue is that you have to retrain them. And today, thanks to digital, there is a lot of ways by which they can do self-certification, they can do digital learning, they can do various courses and come up that learning curve. You have to do a little bit of hand-holding, and then the individual has a huge content. We have developed, for example, a huge content by which existing employees can learn the various modules, get certified, and become trained on future skills. In other words, they have to move from being digital immigrants, that's people who are new to digitalization, to be digital natives, like our children who are so skilled in the digital workforce. So if I were to sum up, I would say that, look, the challenge for employment is the right skill set. That I think is one of the biggest challenges that's facing this country. A lot of efforts have happened, but I think we must now calibrate the efforts of government, the training institute and industry. The training companies and the training institutes sometimes have been completely divorced from industry. Academia has been completely divorced. We have to get them together, and we should help design the outcome we should help design the curriculum in conjunction, and we in industry then have the onus of providing on-the-job training and providing jobs to these people. So, Ramesh, I would give my initial remarks as that, by again summing by saying skilling is very important. We have thousands of companies and thousands of programs and thousands of incentives. Let's calibrate all of them. Industry, government, academia, training institutes working together, providing the right skills to people, and they become job employable. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep. I'll request Mr. Sambashiva Rao, Managing Director and CEO of Andhra Pradesh State Skill Development Corporation, to make his remarks.
Sure. Distinguished dignitaries on the dais and the participants, a happy evening to all. Friends, it's the vision of our Honorable Chief Minister to make Andhra Pradesh as the knowledge and skills hub of the country. We are on a mission mode. The roadmap is clear. We aim to train or skill at least 35 lakh people by year 2020 and to train at least 2 crore people by year 2029. My point is, we have a clear vision and a clear roadmap ahead for us. Our activities can broadly be classified into two segments, one for the students and the other for the unemployed. Under academic stream, I am happy to share with you, we are present in 1,000, yes, a staggering number of 1,000 education institutions today. We are conducting structured skill development programs in around 320 social welfare and tribal welfare residential schools, in 290 engineering and polytechnic colleges, and in around 390 degree colleges. What are we doing there? Our priority is to make our students job ready by the time they step out of the colleges. Our aim is to make our students have a competitive edge over others in the highly crowded job market out there. For this, we are concentrating on providing industry certification courses in a big way to our engineering college students. We have tied up with global companies such as Google, Amazon, Udacity, Coursera, Dassault, etc. to offer certification courses directly by them. The advantage is these big companies will connect the students to their clients and vendors, enhancing their employment chances. In degree colleges, we are running employability skill centers where we'll train them continuously through the 3 years. In the initial phase, that is first year and second year, we impart a kind of foundational course where we teach them life skills, basically communication skills, problem solving, logical thinking, teamwork, and IT skills. And in the third year, we are imparting skilling in identified core domain areas plus campus recruitment training. So this structured way of imparting that required training is likely to make the students highly employable. Our flagship program is Siemens Skill Development Centers. What is this? We collaborated with the German major Siemens and have set up 6 centers of excellence and 34 technical skill development institutes across the state. The Siemens have supplied state-of-the-art equipment and have given access to industrial software licenses. So these courses are a big draw, and we are offering today around 121 short duration courses at these Siemens centers. Friends, today the AP SSDC is able to reach out to around 5 lakh students in our schools and colleges. I don't think any other state skill development mission has this kind of penetration. Coming to the unemployed youth, there is a lot of clutter and confusion when we started to work out our strategies to address this segment. Why? There are tens of or dozens of sectors and hundreds of job roles or trades. Where to begin? For the sake of clarity, we identified 20 key sectors in the economy which have big potential for generating employment in the near future. So we held discussions with various stakeholders, industry, sector skill councils, and then arrived at these 20 sectors. And within each sector, we identified the top 5 or 6 or 10 job roles which are in demand in the job market today. So we have a bouquet of 20 sectors and around 220 job roles. So once this clarity emerged, now we are reaching out to the industry, we are reaching out to quality training partners to offer structured short duration skilling programs in these job roles. Our target is to train at least 2 lakh unemployed youth in these 220 job roles in the next fiscal. Friends, in addition, we have been conducting job melas and job drives in a big way in AP. What we are doing there? Basically, we are linking the job aspirants, primarily the final year students and the unemployed, with the potential employers. We are creating a platform and doing a kind of matchmaking. In fact, we are providing pre-job mela training to the aspirants one day in advance to enhance the success ratio. Friends, today, the government or the skill development missions are mainly depending on the private players, the so-called training partners, to impart our training programs. We think it's the time that government and industry together should build a robust, qualitative, and world-class training infrastructure in the form of centers of excellence or skill development institutes in a big way. So we took the lead and we reached out to the industry. Today we are in advanced stage of discussion with big companies like L&T, Amar Raja, Kia Motors and HPCL to set up modern skill development institutes for world-class training. Friends, as Mr. Sandeep pointed out, in India every year 12 million people are added to the job market. Yes, 12 million people. That means around 1400 every hour. So they need to be properly trained or skilled for better productivity, in the society and economy. But where is the bandwidth? Where is the infrastructure? Plus, are there sufficient number of jobs in the economy to meet the demand? Definitely no. So, apart from placement-oriented or wage employment-oriented skilling, we have to focus on entrepreneurship and venture development also in a big way. Some of our students and our unemployed youth have to become job creators rather than job seekers. So based on this thinking, APSSDC is taking up entrepreneurship and venture development courses also in a big way. We partnered with Northeastern University, Boston, and we have sensitized around 10,000 engineering college students on venture development. We picked up 250 brilliant students with viable startup ideas, and these students are undergoing a 9-month venture development diploma course with the Northeastern University, and we are going to expand this program to other engineering colleges across the state. Friends, while taking up all these activities and also while discussing with various stakeholders, we came across certain challenges. What are they? Primarily, I can reel out 3. One is to ensure quality. Are we providing qualitative skilling? Are these training programs are in tune with the industry requirements? This is one area we have to address and ensure that quality training is given when we are spending public money. Number 2, how to scale up. 1 million every month is not a small number. So it's a huge challenge. How to scale up our activities to reach out to millions and millions of the youth who are in need of skilling. Maybe we have to leverage technology, by using a kind of studio and smart classes model going forward. Number 3, speeding up. How fast can we do? Can we afford, conducting discussions, workshops, and making out strategies? No, we have to start implementation straight away without any further loss of time. So how fast can we do it? So quality, quantity, and speed. These 3 are the major concerns that we face. It occurs to us that there are certain solutions in the immediate term. Number 1, apprenticeship and internship. It's a very effective tool and maybe the best way of providing skilling. So the government, the academic institutions and industry together have to consciously promote and encourage apprenticeships. Government of India has come up with the National Apprenticeship Promotion Scheme with a target of 50 lakh apprentices by 2020. But today the number is hardly 5 lakhs. So there is a huge scope to proliferate apprenticeships. It's a very smooth way of transition from unemployed to employed. The students get to earn while they learn. So this is one solution we can think of. Number 2, where is the skilling infrastructure? We need hundreds and thousands of skill development centers or institutes to skill these millions of the people. I think in the immediate term, we can think of, educational institutions. They can evolve themselves as skill development hubs in their respective areas. Why? A typical educational institute has got the building, they have got the classrooms, they got the teaching ecosystem. Then what is required? Yes, maybe if they can set up labs for imparting short-term skilling courses in some vocational areas or in some job roles or trade which can offer them jobs immediately, either in the formal sector or informal sector, it will go a long way in bridging the infrastructure gap in skilling. Number 3, Sector skill councils have definitely expanded their role. Today we have 40 plus sector skill councils in India. Why can't they open their chapters in each and every district? Because these councils are industry bodies. They are the best people to know what kind of skills are required to be imparted, what kind of knowledge is to be given to the trainees. Plus, they have the right kind of linkages and networking to provide employment or to help in the placements. So they have to expand their activities. They can be effective coordinator between the various elements of the skilling ecosystem, be the academia, be the industry, be the state skill development missions. Number 4, and lastly, we have to work out. And in fact, it is imperative now to work out different innovative models of public-private partnerships to create a sustainable, viable, and robust skilling infrastructure or ecosystem, whatever you call, in our country. Because governments or state skill development missions or industry or councils alone cannot achieve this gigantic task. All of them have to come together, and we should evolve some models like how to bear the capital expenditure or operating expenditure in creating and running the modern skilling institutes across the country needs to be worked out urgently. Friends, these are the 4 solutions which are doable in the immediate future, which can address the immediate concerns in the skilling industry. Yes, before concluding, I would like to share with you, in Andhra Pradesh, in fiscal 17-18, we are reaching out to 6 lakh beneficiaries through skilling, entrepreneurship development, job melas, etc. Around 5 lakh students and 1 lakh unemployed youth. Going forward, next year, we have set for ourselves an ambitious target of reaching out to 1 million. Yes, 10 lakh students and unemployed youth are on our radar in the next 12 months. The action plan is ready. We are geared up to launch these programs in right earnest, right from day one. And I seek sincerely the support, the encouragement, and the guidance from various stakeholders in the skilling ecosystem, be the industry, be the sector skill councils, be the education institutes. Only when all of us are in sync only can we achieve meaningful results for the benefit of our unemployed youth or students. Friends, to conclude, I would like to share the significance of skilling in a single sentence in a lighter vein. If you are not skilled, your job is killed. Okay, because no employer would like to have an unskilled or underskilled employee with him. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. That was very interesting, and the huge push that the government of Andhra Pradesh is giving for skilling, which is natural because the Chief Minister's leadership is bringing a lot of industries to the state, and we need skilled manpower here. And I can tell you from my own experience, when we set up a greenfield project in Nellore for renewable energy, we found it very difficult to get skilled people from the ITIs there. So what we did was then we took them and trained them again in our other plants. And now, of course, these people are very fast learners. So they learned very fast, and now, of course, we have a plant which is very, very functional. I'll request Ms. Meena Raghunathan she is the Managing Director of GMR Varalakshmi Foundation and also a member of the Advisory Committee of AP Skills Development Corporation, to give her remarks.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be following on from Sambashiva Garu. He's just told you about the amazing work that APSSDC is doing. I want to kind of add to that from a slightly different angle, because APSSDC is a very unique organization. The Chief Minister, current Chief Minister, as soon as he came into power, this was one of the things that he set out to do very early, within a few months. And he conceived this, and I want to share the generic lessons or the principles on which this is based. He said this has to be a PPP. the skill effort in Andhra Pradesh will be done under a PPP model where industry leads. And therefore, he got some of the most eminent industrialists of the region to be part of that, because he said without the buy-in of industry, it's never going to work. So this is a very unique model where private is supposed to hold 51%. It's led by an outsider, not from the government. But there's a beautiful collaboration between the private sector and the government to actually bring in innovations, new ways of working, and industry buy-in. So I think this is a very important and visionary kind of step that he took. The second very interesting concept is, in India, skilling has to be inclusive. You have to address the last Antyodaya to the most sophisticated. So this strategy of APSSDC talks about skilling school dropouts. They may be semi-literate, not even literate, going right up to very sophisticated training for engineers, post-engineers in, IoT and all the latest. So what Sambashivara Garu Rao mentioned, the Siemens partnership or the Dassault partnership. So it's talking about training a tribal youth in a very remote area for what is suitable there to an engineer for being able to take up the most sophisticated job, not just in AP. But we see ourselves in Andhra Pradesh as being suppliers to the world of skilled and global knowledge. So inclusivity in skilling is very critical, and I think APSSDC has that. The third is that if you see, APSSDC has a dual strategy. It is prepare and repair. When you say repair, unfortunately in India, children passing out of schools and colleges do not have the skills that you presume that they have. So you have to have a repair strategy. That is, after they've passed out or when they are on the verge of passing out, you quickly kind of stuff some stuff into them so that they become employable, which is repair, absolutely essential, otherwise they won't get jobs. But the more important is the prepare strategy. You recognize that there are gaps in the education system and you fill in, which is why APSSDC has such a huge focus on going into degree colleges, into professional colleges, and supporting that educational curriculum through a kind of, let's prepare them even before they reach employable stage. So there is both of these. It is very proactive because it is looking at future of industry in AP. I know there have been exercises sitting with every district, what are the industries that are going to be coming up and how can we prepare the youth for that local employment. So I think these are some of the kind of very fundamental principles on which good skilling must be predicated, and I think AP has done that and is trying to do that. The numbers, of course, multiplying every year, but it's very founded on reality. It doesn't talk about what doesn't exist. So that's from APSSDC point of view. I also wanted to quote as representative of an infrastructure group, the GMR group, which does airports, etc., what we see as our responsibility in skilling as an industry. For instance, we have an SEZ in Kakinada, not too far from here, where, any industry coming up, the local population has a very legitimate aspiration to work there. So how should industry respond to that? What is our responsibility? Because they don't have the skills. So we have always been proactive in trying to reach out to the local youth, the local women, prepare them for upcoming opportunities. For instance, when we did the Hyderabad airport or the Delhi airport, we could enable local youth through short interventions of training to get entry-level jobs. Similarly, in Kakinada, where we are foreseeing a lot of, for instance, garment industry coming up, doing a lot of training for the women, the potential guys coming into the SEZ see that there's already capacity building, they are tempted to come in because that's a very good, human resources is almost a critical thing in some of these industries. So it sets off a very virtuous cycle. So I would say that every industry also has to play its bit, and I think Sean also is doing that, in actually fulfilling local aspirations, bridging that gap through training and capacity building. So at this moment, this is what I would like to share.
Thank you, Meena. Before I go to you, Srini, I'll request Mr. Vish Govindasamy from Sri Lanka. He is the Deputy Vice Chairman, Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, President, Indo-Sri Lanka Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and Group Managing Director, Sunshine Holdings PLC, to give his remarks about how he finds skilling in Sri Lanka.
Thank you. And I bring warm greetings from Sri Lanka to the people of Andhra Pradesh. And I'm grateful for CII for inviting me to this session this afternoon. Listening to the various speakers here this evening, just pondering on how Sri Lanka is coping with skilling. So let me just set about a little framework so that you understand, because in scale, Sri Lanka is a lot smaller. We have a 20 million population compared to the huge population here in Andhra and in India. Sri Lanka, over the years or decades, have enjoyed over a 90% literacy rate. But this has also made us very complacent in skilling our workforce. As you may or may not know, education is free. It is provided by the government right from primary through the tertiary system. So the curriculums are not in line with today's workforce requirements, unfortunately. Some of the international schools, however, are addressing these needs. And while the government is also trying to get things like e-learning, etc., put into the curriculum, it is still a huge challenge and a long way to go. In a recently done survey, the private sector has a need of over 500,000 jobs that is vacant and required to be fulfilled. However, out of these 500,000 jobs, only about 10% of this 500,000 is required to be highly skilled. But the workforce that is available is not in the highly skilled area. So unfortunately, there is a big mismatch between the workforce that's available and the jobs that is there, and the highly skilled workforce that is required being very minimal. And this is primarily because manufacturing is not our forte. Basically, it's an agri-based economy, and therefore, that highly skilled area is not there. Going back to our education issue, about 250,000 students end up graduating or sitting for the 12th standard, or what we call the advanced level exams, each year. But only about 10% of these students end up at the tertiary level schooling. And that's not because we are failing that many more people, because only the state runs the tertiary education system. Therefore, the rest are left behind without getting a proper tertiary education. So this also puts a lot of pressure in the job market, not having the tertiary educated, skilled workforce coming into the system. So it's a chicken and egg story that keeps going back and forth. And unfortunately, we have not been very forceful about having private tertiary education system coming into play. We continue to have language issues, even though we are a country that came back from the British colonial era. English seems to still be a problem. Only 2% of the total student population end up learning the English language. So that also, ends up being a problem. However, having said all these issues, I'm proud to say that the IT sector of Sri Lanka has managed to get the skills required for its sector, even though it's a lot smaller in size. It's done some good work and created some good value for the country. The next emerging sector that we see coming up, because we are not in the manufacturing base, will be the financial sector. And we need to make sure the skills for the financial sector is developed, and English being an important part of that, and the tertiary education being an important part of that. Like one of the speakers said, one of the things Sri Lanka is doing is tied up with the Ceylon German Technical Training Institute. A lot of the work is being done there. It's been there for years, but I think they're doing more work now, and I'm sure that will go forward. Many startup and entrepreneur assistance programs are done. We have something called the Crowd Island or Startup Month, etc., to get the youth going into these needs of today. The National Apprentice and Industrial Training Institute also is there, and a huge ADB and World Bank funded program of over $650 million worth is gone into skills development and skills funding. So as everyone said, skilling is a very important need of the day, and we need to get the youth ready for tomorrow. And that continues to be the challenge of the private sector and the government of Sri Lanka. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Govinsamy. That was an eye-opener in many ways, Sri Lanka. Even though we have been operating in Sri Lanka for some time, quite a long time, 25 years now. So, I'll request Mr. Srinivasan to give his remarks on skilling for his sector.
Hello, good evening. First of all, thank you, Ramesh, and also thank CII for the opportunity. It's an absolute pleasure and privilege to be in this panel, and it's very, very important how the topic is so broad, so relevant. And look at the emphasis at the Global Investors Meet. So any kind of investment about the growth opportunity, that can only happen when you have the people with the right skills. So I'm glad that the organizers have given a session for skilling in a Global Investors Meet, because this is a vital aspect. From my perspective, so I've spent time, almost 30 plus years in the pharmaceutical industry, and I work for Pfizer. And Pfizer has a big manufacturing presence in the very city of Vizag, where we have built one of the world-class manufacturing facility that exports the products to the different parts of the world. So, and the pharmaceutical industry is a highly regulated industry. So what it means is the products what we export has to meet the regulatory standards of the every part of the world. So the kind of quality talent that when we start building a manufacturing plant, it's not just the equipment, it's also have the right skills and build the right culture in the organization, so that you are able to supply quality medicines to some patients in the world. So so how did we go about it? We trained, we created a learning university within the company, and hired local people, trained them, skilled them, and they are all employed. And then right now we are able to produce it. So that's only about at a micro level from a one company perspective. So we can switch gears, right? From a pharmaceutical industry, most companies are trying to do that at a company level. Suppose if you switch gears from that company level to a macro level, India itself. To me, there are 5 forces that are impacting the industry. The first one is demographics. I think my colleagues in the panel have talked about it. The young India that's entering the workforce. How do we deal with that? The second one is, I think Sandeep mentioned about the automation, and how do we, what kind of disruption it takes place. It also is an opportunity, because for every manual work related, when it gets automated through robotics or any kind of in terms of automation, you also require a different set of jobs you are creating for skilling in that area. So therefore, It is a set of skills that will become redundant, a set of skills that are required in the future. So therefore, we have to look at it as a challenge, as also as an opportunity. That's the second force. The third force that's happening is the new technologies. So these new technologies, we don't have even the trainers for this, for these skills. So how do we really prepare for this, building these new skills, when these new skills are, the new technologies are so disruptive? It provides huge opportunity. This morning we saw the kind of technologies of the future, where our Honorable Chief Minister was presenting about how we are applying some of the artificial intelligence, robotics, and cloud-based data collect. So these are the areas. Then how do we really skill this group of people? That's a third force that's happening. The fourth one, which I want to touch on this, is a cultural aspect, which is very unique to India. 48% of the women, they go to university. Do all the people, 48%, enter the workforce? No. Only 25% of the people who educate in the university, they enter the workforce. So we are losing out a large portion of the people, women population, talented. They are not even entering the workforce. Then comes to the pull and push factors. So when you look at one of the common reasons, something like when you look at the countries. So, for example, if you look at it, childcare is one of the reasons women leave the workforce. They are skilled, talented, it's available, but they leave the workforce. How does it compare with other countries? Very similar. Those people who go in the age group of 20 to 29, so what they do is they leave because childcare. And this is a very common reason. But what is very unique to India is a lot of women leave workforce to take care of elders. So 75% if it is in India, and then how does it compare with other countries? It's only 20-25. So there is a cultural dimension of skilled, talented people are exiting workforce, not because the job has become redundant, but also because of the cultural factors we need to take into account. So some kind of elderly care, if that takes place, then women can continue to work. Companies, industries can provide that so that you can retain the skilled talent in the company. There is a fifth aspect, it's nothing to do with the skills, but it's also the young, ambitious, aspirational Indian who wants to really growth. Growth is a driver for those Indians. So they just leave that, whatever the skills they have, because they are aspiring to grow to do this. So how do we really retain talent, skilled talent in the industries where we are specialized in? How do we do this? So there is 5 prime forces that are driving some of these changes that are happening. And many of my fellow panelists have mentioned about in terms of, okay, how do we address this? There is an ambitious program that the AP state government has put in. There is an ambitious program from a national government, right? From a prime minister in terms of PMKVY, right? Prime Minister Kaushal Vikas Yojana is an ambitious program. How do we train 500 million people in the next 5 years? These are programs, and there are some specific initiatives are also there, like National Skill Development Corporation, National Skill Development Authority, providing regulatory framework, certification, and other things. But why is this not progressing enough? Is that enough? Do we have the right level of the trainers who can deal with some of these challenges that are created by the new technologies? Is it certification enough? I think Meena mentioned about, is certification alone is enough? Is it certification? Is reflection of the skill? These are some of the questions our fellow panelists have raised it. So therefore, from my perspective, I think there are 3 or 4 things one can do, and this has been touched on this. The first one is, how do we look at our university education? If a university education is not providing the right skills for the future, what should we be doing? Is the solution is developing more skill centers, or is the solution is looking at the infrastructure we already have in the universities and how do we change it? So that means it is not about industry and government, it is about industry, university and government must collaborate. That's a fundamental. And how do we really change the curriculum? How do we really ensure that industry participates in that university program? So the onus is just not the university alone. The push is not from the government alone. The industry must take part in that university curriculum itself. The second aspect is in terms of how do we really look at sector-specific skilling. See, if the jobs are going to be in the industry must take lead, and the industry must be supported with incentives. So the government is providing that push, but how is that support is given to the industry to facilitate that skilling that happens sector-specific? And there are areas which are common across sector. So for example, let's take about the whole data explosion that is taking place, and that's going to really explode in the next 5-10 years. Every day we are generating data like anything. Where are the skills to do the analysis of the data to make decisions? Where are the skills? Where is the analytic skills that are there? These are across industries. So can the cross industry with like CII, all those people can come together and say, what are all the areas where cross industry initiatives can be combined? Analytics is one. Communication is another one. And how do we really look at the online training, online people who are involved in the online, how do you really transition them to newer areas of technologies? So there are cross-industry initiatives can be put up. So from my perspective, engage industry and university along with the government in terms of curriculum itself. The second aspect is then how do we engage some of the sector-specific initiative? What are the incentives you are providing for sector-specific so that you are driving growth in the sector? And third is how do we really initiate cross-sector initiatives? And fourth one is, can we retain the women talent and do some things so that a talented woman doesn't leave the workforce and then they're contributing to the innovation for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I would also like to tell about my experience in the renewable energy industry. I am from Siemens Gamesa, which is a leader in wind and solar in India. We started in 2010 and we have been market leaders ever since. So I am very happy to hear from Mr. Sambashiva Rao that Siemens skill development centers are a very essential part of your thrust for skilling in Andhra Pradesh. I'm very happy to know that. But from my experience, I can tell you that when we started off from a zero base, and most of our people, we now have almost 3,000, little more than 3,000 direct employees, most of them technical. 80% of them are in the villages, rural areas, because that's where our projects take us. So you have to do the construction, and then you have to do the operation and maintenance for 25 years after that. It was extremely difficult to get skilled people to go to the rural areas and not to run away from the difficult circumstances of working there. So then finally, to make a long story short, we started taking people from the villages itself, school dropouts, and started training them in this activity. And we caught them young because it's easier to learn than to unlearn. And we found that the youngsters picked up so fast, even though they did not have formal education, for the work that we wanted. I mean, I can say that, they were like flowers. You just have to put a little water and little nutrients and then they start blooming and shining. That was how we found them in the villages. The other big advantage was nobody in the village wants you to put up a big plant there, even though it is renewable energy, and intrude into their daily life. Even though it is not in the village, it is nearby. So to get them included, if you have people from the villages working there as, people who are technically qualified working there and trained there, that again takes care of the machines, the security and everything is also taken care of. That's a spin-off. So this was our experience to build up from a 0 to a 3,000 base. This was the challenge that we faced. And of course, it is a different story in the factories, like I told you, but in the rural areas, this was a sure shot success, which made us number one in this business. Now, before I go further, I would like to ask some questions to some of the panelists. And I'll start with Mr. Sandeep Sen. For the IT sector, with so many industries being reshaped by data science, cloud computing, and other tech-based skills, there are new job roles being bracketed as new collar. What is industry doing to prepare workforce for these job roles by way of skilling and reskilling?
No, I think that's a great question because the industry is changing dramatically, both in IT and BPO. I represent the BPO sector because Aegis is one of the largest BPOs in India, and the entire skill sets are changing. Today, we are offering clients robotics, automation, artificial intelligence, social media analytics, cloud computing, etc. So two things are happening, Ramesh. One is that, in collaboration with the government, Skills of the Future has been launched by NASSCOM, where the industry as a collective body is going to work with the government. And as we can see, the AP government is very, very progressive. So with the AP skills development, with the national skills development, to develop three things for the new skills: the right curriculum, the right skill sets, the right amount of practical and industry training. If we can do all of these three, the people who then get certified on these new skills will have the possibility of getting jobs, whether it is in industry, in India, or even abroad. So this is a joint collaboration. In fact, the Prime Minister launched it in NASSCOM last week, called Skills of the Future, which is a joint collaboration with industry and with the government, both central and state, to develop these future skills. The only other point that we want to do, and I think Srini raised this issue, is we're trying to get universities, we're trying to get academia to involve these skill sets as part of the curriculum, because then you can really scale up. We can do only so much, but if we can really get every university to use these new skills as part of their curriculum with the right amount of practical and theoretical training, we can really scale it up. So I think a good beginning has happened. India has a competitive advantage in these sectors, and if we can get the skills of the future, people rightly trained and rightly qualified, I think we'll have a great advantage.
Thank you. I'm told that we are running out of time, but before we end, I'd like to ask one question to Sean. Given your organization's extensive global footprints, can you highlight some international best practices which, if emulated by India, will strengthen our skills ecosystem?
Thank you, Ramesh. I can probably use the example of the MOU we've signed with APSSDC as our path for moving forward. We are blessed in Australia that the process of National Sector Skills Council has already been done. We have an industry-aligned content where I can literally pick modules I require and train staff in a quality framework where you have trainers trained the right way, you have content audited, you have competency-based frameworks where people's competency must be measured, and then you have this continuous auditing process. So we literally have the framework that is ready to go. So I apologise because we are not aligned with the National Sector Skills Council. We're in too much of a rush. We are taking something that is available to us as a foreign company, and we are bringing it to the Kannur district to actually develop our own training college. But I must encourage that process of industry engagement to make sure that the skills are identified, that the quality framework is put in place for delivering the training, and then you have a system of continuously auditing to make sure that happens. The next thing is, because it is modular, you can then identify key staff and take it to an additional level where people can eventually become diploma qualified. So we can take people with zero skills, train them up in our needs, outline a program for them when they can eventually get a diploma which is recognised to an Australian framework level. Again, it's industry driven, and it's really critical for our success. One thing which we are going to struggle with as a foreign company coming into India, I have a question maybe for Srinu, which we might have to discuss outside of this forum. How do you bring the soft skills into your business? The hard skills, the training. I'm an engineer. I can understand how to train engineers. How do you train behaviours around quality, around safety? And that's where, even as an Australian company, we still struggle. But we're probably more advanced in the behavioural recruitment, because you recruit people with the right behaviours rather than train them in the right behaviours. But a question I have, again, I can't answer this as a foreign company. When we are recruiting from a local workforce, how do we recruit the behaviours we want? Because that's still a gap, and I don't have an answer for that. But moving forward for skills development, that soft skills is a critical gap which we're still lacking, and safety drives our industry. Again, coming from Australia, where safety is paramount in everything we do, it's almost taken as a given. Anyone who works in your industry works safely. And coming from the pharma industry, you're talking about supplying globally where quality is paramount. I see no difference between quality and safety. It's a behaviour. And I don't know the answer. But again, it's a hypothetical question we need to address, because I don't know how to incorporate soft skills into the framework that we are rolling out in our district.
Thank you, Sean. We must end the session, but before doing that, I'll thank Honourable Minister Mr. Ravindra and Secretary Mr. S.S. Rawat, IAS, and the distinguished panelists who have given us a lot of insights and information about skill development from across the globe. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ramesh Kaimal, for moderating the session, and a huge thank you to all our panelists. Some extremely interesting and valid points here. And of course, the fact that if the government and the industries decide to come together, then nothing is impossible. Ladies and gentlemen, with that we come to the closure of this plenary session. I'd request Mr. K. Ravindra Garu, Mr. S.S. Rawat Garu, and Mr. Sambasiva Rao Garu to please stay back on stage. We're going to have an MOU exchange. Ladies and gentlemen, requesting you all to please be seated. After this MOU exchange, we will continue with our next plenary session. Right now, we would like to share with you some MOU exchanges signings that have happened, and the exchange will take place on the stage right now. Calling upon Shri Captain T.S. Ramanujan from Logistics Sector Skill Council. They have offered to train 10,000 candidates on logistics. I'd request Shri Captain T.S. Ramanujan to please join us on stage. Ms. Kavita from Apparel, Made-ups and Home Furnishing Sector Skill Council offered to train 10,000 in apparel sector, 10,000 candidates in apparel sector. Joining us on stage is Ms. Kavita from Apparel, Made-ups and Home Furnishing Sector Skill Council, offered to train 10,000 candidates in apparel sector. Up next we have Mr. Karyappa from Telecom Sector Skill Council of India, offered to train 5,000 candidates in telecom sector. Ms. Chanda Vade from Retailers Association's Skill Council of India, offered to train 2,000 candidates in retail. Up next, we have Mr. Sachin Sachdeva from Life Sciences Sector Skill Development Council, offered to train 5,000 candidates in life sciences. Srimati N.J. Sheikh from National Film Development Corporation of India, offered to train 5,000 candidates in media and entertainment. Up next, Srimati Vijayashri from National Academy of Construction, offered to train 5,000 candidates in construction. Shri M. Kamlakar Babu from New and Renewable Energy Development Corporation of Andhra Pradesh, offering to train 2,500 candidates for green jobs. Calling upon Shri Ajay R. Erpul from Indian Telecom Industries Limited, offering to train 5,000 candidates in IT and ITES and electronics. Joining us is Shri Burzis S. Tarapurwala from Tata Trust, offering to train 10,000 candidates in apparel and textiles, construction, life sciences and agriculture. Shri Gopal Krishna Garg from Youth for Jobs Foundation, offering to train 1,000 candidates in IT and ITES. Shri Bida Mastan Rao from BMR Foundation, offering to train 2,000 candidates in fisheries. Also joining us on stage is Mr. Narsimhan from International Labour Organization, offering to train 5,000 candidates in MSME development. Shri Ranveer Nair from Europe India Foundation for Excellence, offering to train 3,500 candidates in aviation, media and entertainment. Shri Satyanarayana Nalamili from Raxa Security Services Limited, offering to train 1,500 candidates in security. Colonel M. Rajgopal from Care Institute of Health Sciences, offering to train 5,000 candidates in healthcare. And last but definitely not the least, Shri Venkat Ananda Kumar from Gramtang Employability Training Services, Centurion University, offering to train 5,800 candidates in agriculture, automotive and healthcare. Thank you very much, Shri K. Ravindra Garu, Shri S.S. Rawat sir and Shri Sambasiva Rao sir and all the dignitaries on stage. All the representatives who have exchanged the MOU, may we request you all to please stay back for a photo up with our Honorable Chief Minister later in the evening. And once again, thanking all our dignitaries and panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, with that we move towards our last plenary session titled Redefining the Global Value Chain, the Challenges of Integrating SMEs from Developing World.
Please announce.
Ladies and gentlemen, all the representatives who joined us on stage for an MOU exchange, may we request you all to please stay back we all will get an opportunity to have a photo up with our Honorable Chief Minister. So please stay back for the same. For our next plenary session, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming on stage Damu Ravi, Joint Secretary, Department of Commerce, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. He'll be joining us shortly. Inviting Mr. Michael Yeo, CEO and Director, Asian Strategy and Leadership Institute, Malaysia. Also inviting Rashid Fargati, Managing Director, UPS Indian Subcontinent. Mr. Sanjay Budhia, Chairman, CII National Committee on EXIM and Managing Director, Patton International Limited. May I request all the audience and our guests sitting at the back to please kindly come forward and occupy the front seats. It's going to be an extremely interesting session, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, I'd like to hand over the session to Mr. Sanjay Budhia, who's also the moderator for the session, requesting him to take this forward.
Good evening, friends. I would request all of you to kindly come in the front and join us for this session, which is really very, very important in present day's context. We have very distinguished panelists with us. We have Tan Sri Dato Dr. Michael Yeo, CEO and Director, Asian Strategy and Leadership Institute from Malaysia. Mr. Rashid Fargati, Managing Director, UPS Indian Subcontinent. Mr. Damu Ravi, Joint Secretary from Ministry of Commerce. He will be joining us shortly. I welcome you all to the final session of the day, that is redefining global value chains, challenges for integrating SMEs from the developing world. After a fruitful day of insightful discussions, this session is likely to be richer and therefore more valuable. As we all know, India has been making very targeted efforts to optimize the manufacturing sector. The most important push for this has come from Make in India campaign, which has been the government's clarion call for industry to galvanize production. The government envisaged this campaign to realize its vision to having manufacturing-led economic growth. At the heart of this core development strategy is the need to enable small and medium enterprises, that is SMEs. SMEs are some of the largest job creators in India. This makes them key to realizing the benefits from India's demographic dividend, which, if not employed, may become a demographic burden. It is no surprise then that they have become so central to so many of the government development targets, linking job growth to economic growth and therefore stability. As we all know, in today's times, production and consumption are internationally linked. All production happens across global value chains. This has led international experts to coin the term made in the world. Any product is made with inputs from multiple parts of the world. Raw material might be acquired from country A for refinement in country B and C, and final assembly then takes place in country D. In this situation, creating an enabling environment for SMEs is of vital importance to ensure their resilience to global flux and expand their reach in international markets. I welcome the various experts we have on the panel here today. Through the course of this discussion, they will help us answers to some fundamental questions for the promotion of SMEs. That is, how can we promote SMEs to become part of the global value chains? How can the services sector bolster participation from the manufacturing sector in global value chains? How can conformity to quality standards be promoted in order to achieve these goals? With these initial remarks, I would like to invite our first panelist, Dr. Michael Yeo, CEO and Director, Asian Strategy and Leadership Institute, Malaysia, to share his views. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor and pleasure for me to be invited once again to speak at the CII Partnership Summit. I think this is the 6th time that I'm participating in this annual series of partnership summits. I must apologize at the outset that I have a flight immediately after this, and I need to take leave of all of you immediately after I have spoken. Globalization, innovation, and technology will drive the global value chain. The global value chain have wide implications on trade and investments, and the global value chain covers a wide range of key business functions like production, logistics, distribution, procurement, sales and marketing, research and development, customer service, and so on. All of these processes can be disrupted by technology and innovation. Technology and innovation help countries and companies move up the global value chain. Disruptive innovation and digital disruption will have an impact on the global value chain. Today, we come across a lot of e-logistics, industrial automation, and Industry 4.0 that will change and transform the global value chain. It is our concern that millions of workers will be displaced with automation and robotics. There is therefore an urgent need for reskilling and retraining our workers. And the last session before this that emphasizes reskilling, I think, is an important one. Driverless technology will be adopted by the supply chain companies for long distance haulage. We therefore need to continue to innovate, to create jobs of the future. We need to explore and develop perhaps a stronger partnership between India and ASEAN countries for the new era of global value chain, particularly for SMEs and for knowledge exchange. Perhaps the CII can take that lead and that initiative to foster closer ASEAN-India SME partnership for the global value chain. The global value chain must include the MSME sector, for MSMEs need to be able to gear up for digital disruption. SMEs need help with capacity building and in the upskilling of workers, as well as access to capital for financing purchases of new equipment, hardware, and robotic systems. One big worry is how can SMEs cope with 4D printing? Digital technology and real-time information will transform traditional supply chain from freight forwarding to management system, data exchange, and real-time logistics. Warehouse management systems are now fully automated, as well as fulfillment centers for e-commerce. We see also a lot of autonomous drones and driverless vehicles that will impact also on the global supply chain. Today's new consumers will base their consumer behavior and experience through the internet and social media. And that is something that perhaps SMEs can also gear up and be able to be in the forefront of e-commerce. For SMEs would be able to leverage on e-commerce to reach a wider range of consumers. Another important trend for business to factor in is the growth of e-payment systems or e-wallets as we move towards a cashless society. And again, this is another trend that SMEs need to take into account. The power of information is now in the hands of consumers. Businesses, perhaps working with government and industry organizations like CII, have to develop a digital code of conduct. And we'd like to see perhaps these being discussed at many regional forums. Artificial intelligence will also impact on jobs of the future. AI can replace a lot of jobs now, as well as create new ones. We need highly trained professionals coordinate and manage complex AI systems. Governments and business needs a new strategy, focus on new types of education models, lifelong learning, virtual universities, and reskilling for the new age of intelligent automation. And I think these are the challenges that we all need to work together to ensure that the SMEs are not left out of the global value chain. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you so much, Dato Yo. What you said is absolutely true that in CI also you should have a digital code, and how do we ensure that going forward the global value chain is taken to its logical conclusion, and that's how in this partnership summit linkages between different countries, linkages between different states, and linkages between SMEs and large scale become so important. I know you have a flight to catch. If you have 15 more minutes, you would like to be here for some more time? Yeah, okay. So can I now request Mr. Rashid for his comments, please? You also have to
Well, first of all, thanks for the opportunity given to me to participate to this event. I see the global value chains as a heat map that lights up as more stakeholders across the world get connected. And more Indian SMEs need to get connected to this heat map. I've been in India now for more than a year. And after having worked across diverse international markets, what struck me is that beside the geographic dividend, the diversity dividend that India has is a tremendous opportunity to begin with. According to PwC, by 2040, the purchasing power of the emerging markets, E7, is expected to double the G7. And we know that India and China will be key drivers of that growth. The last 3 to 4 years I've witnessed changing business and economic dynamic, which present a huge opportunity for Indian businesses to grow internationally going forward. Global value chains have redefined what is needed to be part of this chain. SME is a supplier to a typical producer driver chain, which is a characteristic of capital and technology-intensive industries as such automobiles, telecommunications, IT, and semiconductors require certain level of technical capabilities and sophistication, and associated investments, obviously. Infrastructure, strong technology capabilities, and we spoke a lot about that the last couple of days. The flexibility in response, a strong customer service orientation, and capacity to work in sync with the producer's technology systems are key considerations. Poor trade infrastructures increase costs and time of export operation by the larger price to pay is that it could lead to a company or even a country from participating in the global value chains. And we have seen in India, there is high focus on developing commercial airports, for example. And more attention now is given also to cargo and courier terminals, same as the development of ports. And this is why in the recent years, the Indian economy has been one of the fastest growing economies in the world. And this is the result of years of economic reforms. To push growth rates even higher will require modern and well-functioning infrastructures. However, with more rapid economic growth and a rising population, infrastructure improvement must run faster just to stand still, and as the demands placed on road, rail, and air connectivity increase. According to McKinsey, by 2025, India will have 69 cities with a population of more than 1 million each. Economic growth will center on them, and the biggest infrastructure building will take place there. India's commitment to creating smart cities, where infrastructures and information technology will play a key role, will help promote manufacturing, introduce technology, reduce pressure on metro cities by creating jobs in these cities, and also develop skill sets. The last plenary sessions has been covering that aspect as well. The development of skills is going to be key. And the Indian government has been taking, I would say, two key measures recently, which going to help SMEs to enter these global value chains. The first one in the recent budget, it has been allocated 3,079 crore, which is almost $600 million of budget allocated to the MSME sector. The other key step that the government has taken is that recently, for the first time, there is now a logistics division which reports to the Minister of Commerce and Industry. We're going to focus really on the logistics sector. And I think this is what's going to be a big game changer for the future in India. If I go back to UPS, who I represent today, SMEs are a key focus area. And in our experience, there are three aspects that drive the participation of SMEs into the global value chain. The first one is the connectivity. Eventually, it's all about a network being able to connect to maximum countries in the smartest way possible. Today, we have a network which allows to transport on a daily basis 3% of the world GDP, connecting 220 countries and territories. The other aspect is technology. And I think we are in the right place when we heard the vision of the Honorable Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh and what the government of India is doing. Technology is a key element if you want to help SMEs to get into the global value chain. And I want to give an example on how technology is playing a key role in UPS. We spoke a lot about drones, and everybody is trying to understand how drones are going to shape the future of the logistics. We already started in UPS. in Rwanda, we are partnering with a company called Zipline. And what we do is we help population in rural areas with limited access by road to get some blood sample delivered. We have seen that this is really working really well, efficiently, and we are able to get reaching those territories which not well connected by flying drones there and delivering those blood samples. And the latest aspect I want to cover is efficiency. Efficiency which ensures that there is no idle inventory on either the supplier or the buyer side of the business. So global value chains are driven by new forces, as we spoke. State-of-the-art infrastructures, just in time, time to market are some of the key requirements that are intrinsic for Indian SMEs to be part of the global value chain. It is about building efficiency in the supply chain. It is about relooking at business strategies. Finally, in order to be part of this heat map, it is about ensuring that we support the Indian MSMEs to constantly create value in these global chains. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Sid. You very rightly said that the essence of the connectivity is very, very important. Connectivity between the countries, connectivity between companies, and connectivity between large scale and small scale. That is how we'll ultimately reach to the global value chain. And with this now, I would invite Siddamu Ravi, our Joint Secretary from Ministry of Commerce, Government of India, to enlighten us.
Thank you, Chair, and Richard, Vergati, and friends in the audience. Yeah, so I think a lot of the subject matter has already been covered. So I really don't want to go into details as to what it means. And being part of this partnership summit, every one of you are fully familiar with the global value chains. But let me give you a somewhat different perspective from the way the Ministry of Commerce and Industry looks at the global value chains. We need to first recognize that the consumer is the biggest beneficiary of global chain. I think that is the fundamental aspect in the way the global chain moves. Now, behind that are the several players. And who are the players? There are the manufacturers, there are the producers, the service providers, various other players. We also have to recognize that this is not something new. It has been happening over a period of time. But what is different here is that in the 21st century, the global value chain phenomena has become very, very active. Now, there are many factors. Traditionally, the manufacturing was happening, a movement of raw materials, probably intermediate products, and the trade was taking place seamlessly between nations. But the 21st century, this activity in this particular century has become much more robust. And how does it happen? There's no one country, first of all, producing all goods. If you look at automobile, a car, maybe at a time when every part of a car was produced in one country, but that is not so. Today, you have car companies sourcing material from different parts of the world. It could be from India, which if you have the competence, if the product is qualitatively good,
it is well priced, then naturally the sourcing happens. So without any intervention. So in other words, it's the market intervention really determines from where a particular firm sources that material. Another interesting phenomena in the manufacturing is the role of services. The services is increasingly playing a very, very strong input in the manufacturing. Now, how does this happen? You have, again, I take you an example of automobile. Today you have the dynamics of the car have changed. You have software embedded in the cars. You have GPS system linked to the cars. Then you have the services. The company that gives you a car is also servicing you every now and then. So these are all a part of the manufacturing deal. So I think what it tells us is that the production processes are evolving constantly in the global value chain. So naturally, quality is a primary aspect. The price is a primary aspect. So when you are looking at these two elements in a particular input into the manufacturing, then the costs have to come down over a period of time. So those companies that are not able to adapt to this changing, then you will see that those companies also have a problem in staying in the market. So you will see a disruption in their activity, and sometimes the companies will have to wind down. This is the flip side of the global value chains. The companies are not able to adapt to technologies. The company is not able to gear up to the needs of the demands of the manufacturing production chain, then it naturally has to wind up. Now, I'll also tell you where we are as developing countries. It's important to understand countries like India, where we are in this global value chain. I think the primary determinant of a global value chain for a country to be actively participant is the infrastructure. And Mr. Fergati has mentioned about it, how the UPS is so much expanded into the country and doing a lot of connectivity in the country. Even the previous speaker, Mr. Michael Vo, also mentioned about the importance of how the artificial intelligence and robotics are going to be increasingly disruptive if you are not able to adapt to it. So for a developing country, the logistics is a major criteria. Ease of doing business, so much has already been mentioned in the morning sessions about what we are doing in the ease of doing business. Then the IT-enabled technologies that are playing a great role in the manufacturing. The tariffs, the import duties also have an important role, because if your intermediate products have to move into a country, then your tariffs have to be restructured. Then the standards. The product has to undergo quality tests. It has to meet the global standards. Then the most important element is close to the markets. The production chains are moving around the world where the markets are. Why is it today India attracting a lot of FDIs into the country? Because the market is here. It's a 1.3 billion population with a huge purchasing power. So naturally, the production chains will move into the country. Now, the advantage here is when big companies move into an economy, what happens is it develops ancillary products. So there are a lot of the MSME sector is the biggest beneficiary of such a inward FDI inflows. Now, this is a challenge as well, and a lot of it has been mentioned. How do you deal with MSMEs having to cope with it? Then the typical argument that is thrown across is for our developing countries benefiting from the global value chains. Now, this is the biggest argument. Some critics say not really, because the big company is placed in developed economies and they are taking control of the production elsewhere. They are determining the standards. They are making the product in developing countries using cheap labor, and what the developing countries ultimately get is a very small segment of what is sold. Because we have to understand that there is a component called the intellectual property rights. So a country which is holding that intellectual property right is the biggest beneficiary in the global value chains. So the criticism is generally the developing countries which are engaged in global value chains are actually receiving very little in return through this global value chain concept. But I think what we have to understand is, even though the returns are small, we need to be prepared to take the challenge. Why? Because one, any economic activity is good for employment. It generates jobs. The second is, again, a manufacturing activity in any country will bring in technology into your country. And that technology will help you to produce newer products, improve the quality of products. So purely from the economic angle of a country, it is important to be engaged, however small the returns may be. But eventually what will happen is the companies will start to get into a greater value addition of that product and then move up the value chain. So now this where is the support of the government will be required. I will briefly touch upon the policy interventions that are needed in order to enable the Indian companies, particularly the small and medium-scale enterprises, to link into the global value chains. One of which is, first of all, you need to ensure that the SMEs are able to survive in a competitive world. Now, how do you allow that to happen? One is the support structure that both the line ministry, which is the MSME ministry, and the Ministry of Commerce and the Department of Industries are able to look at what are the requirements of the MSME. And I would tend to think as a priority first would be, are you giving support for value addition? If you look at, I can only talk for Department of Commerce, what we have done is the MEIS scheme, Manufacturing Export Incentive Schemes. We are also giving SEIS, Service Export Incentive Schemes. Then we are also supporting a lot of industries to take part in the trade fairs abroad. So smaller companies, they're able to take part internationally in various trade fairs to make themselves known in the marketplace about what is their product and at what price they're able to sell you. We are also assisting the industry with intelligence reports, the market intelligence reports. So we commission a lot of agencies to do market intelligence reports for the benefit of the industry. And of course, CII is one of our biggest partner in that initiative. We are also doing capacity building. I think the skilling is very important. The Ministry of Skill is fully aware, the Department of Industry is also fully aware the need for skilling. Now, this is a lot of the previous speakers have touched upon the fact that artificial intelligence, robotics are going to take away jobs, which is true. But I think we also need to gear up to this challenge, because we should not be afraid that the jobs will be lost because something is going to happen. We should be prepared that because that change is going to happen, that you will gear up to meet the requirement. You will need definitely people to continue to do those jobs, but at a different level of skill requirement. You will need a lot more skillful people to be able to man robots, to be able to do robotic engineering, artificial intelligence, 3D printing. So what is required in future for the jobs is not that jobs will go down, but the high-skilled jobs will have to come into the marketplace. And that will be what we need to see from the policy angle. And how do we create that enabling environment that greater skills people are able to, youngsters who are coming out into the market are able to cope up adapt to this. The fourth element, I think a lot of it has been touched, is access to credit, access to finance, access to technology. Now, these are very important elements, because if an MSME does not have a smooth access, a seamless access to credit, it's going to die. So we need to ensure that that channel is kept open. So is the case of technology. Now, technology does not come easy, because technology in most developed countries is a closely guarded secret. And why I should only blame developed countries, even developing countries keep the technology as a very, very closely guarded secret. But that is where we need to work on homegrown technologies. And second is to be able to invest in joint ventures. Joint venture kind of business, collaborations will bring in technology into your country. So we have to be open to the idea of greater joint venture, joint collaborations for the technology to come in. I think I would like to add another element, which is companies should be incentivized to invest in technology. So maybe a mandatory requirement of, let's say, 5% of the return and a supporting incentive from the government for reinvesting in R&D would be very essential, because value addition is a critical factor in staying afloat in the global value chains. So I have the budgetary support. The budgetary support, I think many of you are aware what has happened in the budget. A lot of incentives have been given for small and medium scale enterprises, tax incentives particularly. Then from the Ministry of Commerce, again, I would like to emphasize what we are doing on the trade facilitation issues. So India has ratified the WTO agreement on the trade facilitation agreement, which had come into force about a year ago, and we are doing the implementation aspects on a war footing. The National Committee on Trade Facilitation has been set up. So every month, the Cabinet Secretary and assisted by various ministries are looking at the implementation aspects, and the state governments are party to that TFA. So then last word, in particular with this Visakhapatnam, I feel this city can be the hub, because hub for logistics, it has a natural advantage to be a number one city for the hubs, because if it's well connectivity and it's port, airport, so we can have multiple options into the future as to how the logistics and connectivity can grow in the country. And as these elements grow, the global value chains, the India's participation and Indian MSME's participation in the global value chains will become very, very crucial and important. I'll stop here, and thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ravi. Friends, we have heard from the policymaker, and the key word what he says was, how do we enable the able? There is capability, there is ability, and how does the government help, whether in terms of assessing the market, in terms of assessing finance, technology, market development assistance. You started by saying that we have to change with the changing time, and there are no boundaries, there are no limitations. We can be manufacturing in India, we can be assembling in USA. Ultimately, we have to integrate with the best. Friends, I think we had a very fruitful session, and with this, we come to the end of today's deliberations, and tomorrow morning again we'll be meeting. And of course, from CIA, they will be making the announcement regarding the dinner. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanjay Budia. Thank you to all our panelists for such an invigorating session. The importance of technology, importance of joint ventures, and how collaboration is the way forward. Once again, a warm round of applause for all our panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, it was the last session. It was very kind of them to stay back for it. With that, we conclude our day 2 of the CII Partnership Summit, ladies and gentlemen. We would request all the industry members, speakers, international delegates, and guests to please join us for dinner and a cultural program which is being organized by the Confederation of Indian Industry tonight at 7:30 p.m. onwards at Kailash Giri. We'd like to invite you all for a special dinner and cultural program being organized by CII at Kailash Giri starting from 7:30 p.m. onwards. Transport will be organized to and fro from the venue. We would request you all to kindly assemble in front of the registration counter by 7 p.m. I repeat, transport is being organized. Would request you all to kindly assemble in front of the registration counter by 7 p.m. Tomorrow we start, it's the day 3 of the Partnership Summit. We start with our first session at 10 a.m. We would request you all to kindly assemble and be seated by 9:45 a.m. I repeat, please be seated in the hall by 9:45 a.m. It's a very interesting session, a special session with Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar, which I'm sure we wouldn't want to miss. Hope to see you tomorrow on time. Have a great evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.